We are reading through a very important collection of Buddhist teachings called Udanavarga, which actually means specific sayings, because each of the topics very much hones onto the very topic specifically, be that 20 verses or 38 or whatever the verses may be. They actually focus on that, and these are all said to be very original sayings of the Buddha, called Buddha Vachana. Buddha means the enlightened one, Vachana means his voice, his speech. So the words of the Buddha that are compiled together around 3rd century AD by a very noted Indian monk called Dhammapada. And so we have had the opportunity to read through the first 4 topics in the last few sessions. Tonight we're going to last topic we read was on heedfulness, the importance of the mind being able to one-pointedly focus on how to distinguish between things that are good to pay attention to, things that are not so good to pay attention to, and therefore develop the heedfulness in learning how to choose one and drop the another. And therefore, last 2 verses we read, it said was that set out for work and get away. That really is written on the wheel of life at the top. Set out for work means you should set your feet to do good work as a heedful. Whatever you are, don't squander your time and spending time umming and ahming and not getting much done. Set out, plan what to do, when to do, how to do, and engage yourself to be of use for whatever that it is. So as even for ordinary person getting there every day to day, if he doesn't set out on time and doesn't go to do the thing, and then he's not heedful, is he? His jobs are undone, ignored, and neglected, and people are making noise, and so on and so forth. And oneself becomes very loathed by the feeling, I haven't done this, and so on. So all suffering comes from heedlessness. One who's set out for work and get away, and that is he's out of the home or the place he's left, You can see this. You can see the dust coming from his car. He's gone, It's like that. Engage yourself in what the Buddha taught, So even though you may be doing the worldly task, but do mindfully, whatever that it is, skillfully, do what is proper and harmlessly, and like elephant do to the lotus ponds, What does elephant do to the lotus ponds? And the elephant spend as long as he needs to cool his body because of the heat of the sun, and spend time in the water, and then he quickly get out of there, and destroy the troops of henchmen of death. So meaning, this is talking about the fear of any kind, including fear of death. And if you did something well today, set out to work and get away and done it, and week after week, month after month, if one did that, then when the death nears, you wouldn't regret. One who hasn't done this, done that, and then feels he hasn't lived as fully as he should, and then really fears death. One who has lived fully does not fear death. He thanks death. There are many people who you can see, they're not necessarily religious people, who has really lived a good life and done very well and did all the good he or she could do, didn't waste time, and they usually die with dignity and love, surrounded by loved ones and so on. Whereas those who haven't wouldn't even have those loved ones around them. And he fears death. And death usually comes unannounced in a very difficult time. Those who conduct themselves with heedfulness in this training of dharmic subjugation, meaning that if one who is heedful, they always find Dharma to help us to train our mind, how to subdue our wrathfulness, our short-temperedness, our kind of too much opinionated and too much reactive, negative. We will see those things when we listen and read the Dharma. And in the training of self-subjugation, we need to subdue our own mind, because we can see the Dharma has so much to teach us, and we can do that. We'll abandon the cycle of birth. Yeah, we'll abandon the vicious cycle of problems. Abandon rebirth means, of course, whole samsara. But samsara, people can look one from the point of view of life after life and life after life. But you can see that within these few years of our life, if we could see how much one is abandoning the cycle of vicious problems, or reducing them due to our able to subdue our thoughts and the mind and the body and behavior. The more you are able to practice refuge, which means safe, you are practicing safety. You're practicing safe thoughts, safe doing, safe sayings, safe no reactions. All these things are self-subjugation, training of Dharma. Minding one's own mind is the highest training. Minding other things also is training, but minding one's own mind is highest training. We'll abandon the vicious cycle, of anger or blaming or regret or guilt and all these things. Maybe it was years ago it was really like that, and now since we have met the Dharma, we feel so blessed, and we realize our progress is very feeble, but the little progress we have made is such a precious thing. And then we have broken the chain of that vicious cycle, and we might even have repaired some of those and put an end to suffering. So that's a very example. How do you know you have broken the vicious cycle? Because you're not suffering nearly as much as blaming or anger or whatever. You're not self-pitying, or you're not thinking someone has done harmful thing to me, or you don't think nearly as frequently. You may occasionally think like that, but you don't make a suffering anymore. Just a story. Do you want to see my story? Then you actually don't have any emotion. It's just a dream. You just woke up and telling, yeah, that's it. End of suffering. Yeah, it's you no longer going on and soiled by that. That is why we have the heedfulness. So those are the two verses we finished last week, because it's good to remember those 39 verses we read. Tonight we're going to read an amazing topic which usually you don't see much in Buddhism. It's called beauty. Usually it doesn't talk much about beauty. So here the topic is beauty. And of course the message is the problem from beauty. So it says, Dupa namle nyangaike, dupa namle jikbaike, dupa namle nampana nyangame jing jikpame. So all beautiful objects produce sorrow. All beautiful objects produce fear. All beautiful objects produce sorrow because the beautiful objects are beautiful. But for how long? It was beautiful for a while, and then all of a sudden it became a nightmare. You might have a niece, you might have a nephew, you might have an adopted child, you might have a friend, or you might have something, but you might have a beautiful garden, but as soon as after 5 months it's not beautiful. Yeah. So the beautiful object themselves don't produce sorrow, but don't get us wrong here. I'm sure the beautiful object does produce temporary happiness and pleasure for sure, but those who attach to them as real and as permanent as truly existing. And then people feel sorrow, because when the beauty fades, then they will have sorrow. So why do people suffer from having beautiful things? Because they attach to. They said that maybe their mother or whoever it is, whatever it is. It's good to have someone beautiful or something beautiful, but it's just as important to know they're all temporary. Then you wouldn't have sorrow. Remember, the first chapter was on impermanence. If you remember that all beautiful things are but temporary, then when the beauty fades away, you do not have sorrow. But otherwise, majority sentient beings are suffering because they had a beautiful thing. Whether it's a position, a job, or whatever it is, was beautiful, but it doesn't last. It's not a fault of the object, it's not a fault of us. But yet people think that way. And then they have sorrow. They think it's the, whatever. And they have misconception about the object as it's permanent. Beautiful object produce fear, yeah. Then one afraid one will lose it. And actually one will. One will lose the beautiful things. The beauty itself will lose its own lifetime, its own lifespan. It's very short, most beautiful, Michael Jackson used to think he was very, very beautiful. Everybody thought he was great, but he himself wasn't quite happy with his nose, for instance. Even when he repaired his nose, made it beautiful, then his whole life wasn't beautiful. so you can't answer it. It's like that. It's only produce sorrow and fear and suspicion and all the problems, When we attach to beautiful things and somebody dies, we don't think they died naturally. They think something foul here. And then they cause disputes and anger. And an ordinary person, the homeless person is dying next morning, they no fear, no suspicion. So beautiful, handsome, famous things only cause more problems. So there is when one gives up all beautiful objects, there's neither sorrow nor fear. Gives up doesn't mean you have to abandon them. It means gives attachment, gives up attachment to them, thinking they're real, thinking they're permanent, thinking they're truly existing. These are the fundamental. People suffer from wrong views, not because objects are beautiful or bad, because one has a wrong view about the objects. So when one gives up the attachment to the beautiful objects, because they will part from us without us wanting, and then we won't suffer. But those who do not know that, they suffer. They have sorrow and fear. So best way to give up suffering, sorrow, and fear is give up attachment to beautiful things, whatever they are. A lot of the depression in society is because they think something was beautiful and then they lost it. And they couldn't lift up themselves. They're still fallen in the grief of sorrow because they haven't given up the idea that even beautiful, whoever that it is, whatever that is also impermanent. And then you're not giving up your concern for them or respect for them, but you have given up the thinking they are always permanent. They are beautiful always. They're not. So that's why our meditation is like that. When we meditate that things are impermanent. Things are beautiful but impermanent. Things are good but impermanent. Things are but not real. When you do that, then these are amazing kind of statements of the Buddha. The Buddha don't say things to entertain the audience. Buddha say things that are truth and not heard enough or not remembered enough. So that all the sayings of Buddhas are carved on many languages, many rocks, because they're so true. Dharma means truth. Buddha spoke the truth. Beautiful object give rise to sorrow, misery, fear arise from beauty. Because most sentient beings do not know that the beautiful objects are not beautiful object before you saw it. There was a time it was being nothing. And so nothing becomes something, something becomes beautiful. And like I say in Mandela, beautiful. That's why they sweep away as soon as you got to see it done. As soon as you see the beautiful Zen Mandala, then they will sweep it away. Not because they don't want to sort of show their artistic skill, but they want to show it's a teaching to know these are all transient. These are nothing truly there. Is it? So these are the Dharma teachings like that. Beautiful objects give rise to sorrow to those who hold them as real. Misery and fear arise from beauty because people are miserly to use them, and they're attached. That's thinking it's mine. They want the thing to stay longer than they do, and therefore they're resisting against the reality. It's like they're going against the current, and they will be drowned. And that's why beauty brings sorrow, because they're attached to a thing that is not real. And they're holding things that is permanent. When it's gone, it's probably sort of aging by day. But they don't know that, So right now you might be enjoying something beautiful. It might even last a few more years. But be careful. That's what this teaching is saying. If you try to think that's the irreplaceable one, that's the most beautiful one, you're exaggerating. So there's no harm to think like that, but it's good to say it with the wisdom behind it. It's the most beautiful thing I have, but you don't say the but in front of the people. But if no but and if in this truth. If beauty goes through change, its transformation is depression. Beautiful. Something beautiful. Maybe you have a beautiful relationship, with your mom or something, whatever, and something went through difficulty, and then because why? Beautiful doesn't last. Beautiful things doesn't last. It's not the fault of the beauty. It's nature of all things. So depression comes because we're attached. We're resisting to the thing. Every kind of worldly suffering that are sorrowful and lament arise contingent upon beauty. They will not arise if beauty is abandoned, and especially attachment to it. Tugumale nyangeke dugle donga dugulejik, tugumale hienjuna yimugyuwa toperchi. Jede donga namba tumada nyange menga ndamba jinyeba teda dugba dale tendeju dugba pane teda yomin gyur. See, so that they will not, this suffering will not arise if we detach, if we don't desire beautiful things. If we have something and we rejoice for what it is, but at the same time knowing it too is impermanent, then we rejoice it while it lasts. But when it doesn't last, we also rejoice. We also rejoice. Oh, I use it by the date. So otherwise you are having to pour out the 3-liter milk. 3 liter. You thought it was cheap or something, but you never use it. Then you have to pour out the milk that's gone off. But if you just bought the whatever milk, you just use it for number reasons, and then all milk is finished before, it's good. You don't regret, you see. So with things like that, everything is expirable before it actually says. Some of the date says expire on some date, but actually got expired before that. So they never outlast the date. So therefore, whatever the thing is, any place in the world where beauty is absent. At such places, there is happiness and no sorrow. So that's That's the people practice all on the ugliness things, and they're really happy. They meditate on everything being unpleasant and ugly and undesirable, and then they're really good that they can just turn it inside out, and no pretense, no self-deception, and being able to inform oneself with the knowledge is more uplifting than incorrect knowledge and try to think it is good. So those who cherish freedom from dust and sorrow should never take part in beauty. Attachment to it. This means it doesn't mean you denounce them or you put them down, and sometimes they do. Like Shantideva says, the beauty is not beauty. The smell is not the person. It's the powder. It's the sandalwood. He says, if you think this, the sandalwood is very lovely, just go and hug a tree. Or take a bottle of sandalwood, put under your pillow. He says, that's not the thing. It's just something else added to that. So don't confuse. So those who cherish freedom from dust and sorrow should never take part with beauty, particularly attachment with beauty. That's exactly Buddha taught when he left the palace and changed his royal clothing to the mendicant's clothing, and he lived on alms, and even small, simple temporary vows people practice in retreat. Don't use perfumes, and all these things are try to free from sorrow and dust, because it is dust that one is applying. And so therefore it says here, Kanjinjikte Ganandume Pa, Kanshin, Kayin Teda Deshin Yang, Teve Dume, Duta Dunirwe, and Namia Dunga Chepa Mijao. So one is completely capable of going beyond sorrow, because one doesn't take part, or one doesn't desire beauty and attachment to them. Not seeing beauty. So for those who are attached to the beauty, so not seeing beauty is misery, same as when ugliness is sin. Therefore, neither take part with beauty nor with ugliness. So saying these are just duality. So if you said that you didn't see any beautiful things, same is when ugliness sin. You don't like when things are very ugly. When you see beautiful things, also you're not happy. Not seeing beauty is miserable, and seeing ugliness is also miserable. How often do you see misery beauty that lasts? Even the beauty that was soon becomes absent. So there was once upon a time it was beautiful, but now ugliness. Therefore, don't take part in putting attachment to one and aversion to another. This is what we're talking about. When ugliness doesn't mean you have to put aversion to it. It just prevents yourself from getting attached to things. Now, this is not talking about form. This could be ideas, This could be various just things, It doesn't have to be necessarily visual objects or inanimate objects. It could be just number of things that one associate beauty with it. This could be music, could be art, could be sculpture, could be landscape, could be some other beings we think they're beautiful, and they are beautiful, but their beauty is also impermanent. They're beautiful, but they also has a nasty side of it, And when you see the nasty side of it, the more attached we are to the beauty, that much it kicks us. So our sorrow came from the attachment to the beauty. Of course, the phenomena themselves don't produce sorrow, one way or another, But those who put a lot of value and attachment to it, and then they are the one who suffer. Sorrow from parting from beauty and meeting with ugliness causes the aging of the people and give rise to unbearable sufferings. Yeah, the reason why people are aging, one is because they're aging because they lived so many years, and maybe they have to do many, hard work that also where the element there wears the body. But much more aging of people is caused by the attachment, the sorrow, chasing after one, and not accepting the reality as they are. That ages people very, very quickly. So, and give not only aging physically, outwardly, in the eyes of other people, but give themselves unbearable sufferings. It's no match to any sufferings. No physical beating would cause that much suffering. But one who is attached to beauty, is self-punishing, will make them suffer long, unbearable suffering. They do not know how to end the suffering. Dukpa mando dungala maduk tona teshinle. Namya dungan chemeja, meduk padan chemeja. Dukpa tane cherada meduk padan chebai, kangi meda gejebe, nyange mese gewanyu. Yeah, people wanted to not age quickly, but their attachment to something and their anguish over loss of something beautiful is aging them much more quickly than any back-breaking job or work actually ages them. So that's why one who is not attached to these things will not age quickly. Simple as that. It's just the opposite. The teaching always says one thing, it says the other exactly. Implied. Implied means you will not age quickly if you're not attached to such things, and you will never suffer. Even you're materially poor, or you might have this thing not going, they will not cause you suffering. Loss of these material things does not cause long suffering. Duration is how much the degree of suffering is our attachment to the beautiful house or land or country or whatever. Amazing. These are the real teachings of the Buddha. What a refreshing thing to remember. These were the very thing that stopped the mind of a lot of people, that stopped the merchants becoming merchants and to pouring all his savings to build the Saravasti, the Jetavana Grove, and build the monastery. The Pindaka, another Pindaka, who just heard these things, he realized what on the earth he's doing all this so much for. And he gave the most beautiful thing is this kind of teaching that if heard by anyone, everybody needs to hear this, because most people are so wrongly predisposed as these things are good to own and possess and think they have. When the more they invest in thinking they have something, possession, a position or thing or whatever, beautiful, but they don't realize that the more attached they are, that much it's killing them. Before they're old, they're old. Before they're sick, they're sick. Because they're poor. Before they're poor, they're poor. Before they're dead, they're dead. So that's why one has to know how not to give rise to such unbearable suffering. When you have little physical ailment, you quickly go to the doctor to get well. But when one is making oneself sick from within, one doesn't want to go to the doctor. So that's what we're talking about. I mean, if you really understand why people seek to become beautiful, why people want to possess beautiful, why people want to gain possessions and position that everybody eyes and everybody is envying, when you get it, it is troublesome. It is poison. because they won't last. It might be good few days, but then soon after that it's all turned sour. It's the nature of power, nature of positions, nature of status, nature of whatever it is that samsara really promises. All those things. Beings are so misled by many such mundane problems. They don't see that poison is poison. They are deluded in knowing that And that's why they are ignorant. And hence, us listening and reflecting and really knowing, learning something from this amazing work, you can see why those kings and those peasants and those sharp people put so much time, and even such a very desolate country, Tibet, and when those people got these teachings, they unhesitatingly put all their resources and human resources and whatever the resource they were to get these teachings translated and retranslated, revise again, check, and so by the 11th century, it's all done. Scripturally, all the teachings completely translated in fear of losing. Yes, yeah, the source of the country where it came from has lost already by then. Only thankfully some countries have received it, and so us being able to all those people, what happened in Tibet as a political crisis, those people really knew exactly what to do. They didn't run for their life, they ran to carry these sticks on horses and mules. They left all the riches, all the other things behind, but of course they weren't informed. They had lots of other Tibetan monasteries and so on in the Himalaya range and everywhere. They already had these copies, but they never knew. But they knew most precious things are the scriptures, Scriptures, yeah. But those scriptures are not to fill the shelves, If we don't read them, we don't listen them, and then what's the point? Just to say we have them. Even beautiful texts will not last long. But the messages could be remembered, Message could be remembered. These are all, before there was no text, there was only memory of the monks, and then a memory. And then in fear of losing the beautiful teachings, they all commit to writing, and then even Sanskrit didn't preserve the Buddhism. That's what we're talking about. When someone beautiful dies, so like say your child or your uncle or your mom or friends, who have many relatives and intimate friends have sadness for a long time, parting from beauty brings sorrow. So this is talking about, we're not talking about just sorrow generally speaking, we're talking depression. Quite a lot of people have lost their loved one who was very beautiful, and they never recovered. Yeah, they never heard teachings, and they think it's their love for them or something. They should still feel mourning the death of that. The longer they can mourn, maybe loyal they are, type of thing. Which is just ridiculous, worldly kind of. In India or some cultures, you have to wear, black clothes or have shaven or something at least a year or so. I think those are good thing. Like Tibetan wouldn't celebrate Losar if someone in their family dies. They don't celebrate Losar or New Year, meaning not dancing and singing and that sort of thing. So these some are cultural, some are very cultural, but others make it wrong, more than cultural. They feel really sad. It's their fault, or they think the dead person's fault, and they don't get to know that's the nature of life. They don't know that, so that's why the death of someone always beautiful, and people don't realize that it's nature. It's nature of things. It wasn't always beautiful. It was just a blob. First it was just a little blob, and then became oblong, and then it developed little limbs. It's amazing nowadays. You can look at the development stages in the embryo and so on. and there's nothing. It looks like a frog or a fish or a tadpole or whatever. Yeah, tadpole stage is called oblong. Frog, maybe then it's 4 legs coming out. There are 9 such stages. Yeah, when the person is born, and to the parent, no matter how the baby looks, it's beautiful. It's actually not looking really beautiful at all, but it's really, it's just part of that desire or attachment is my child. It just makes it beautiful. And of course, nobody would say you got an ugly baby. Everybody would say, oh, beautiful baby. It's amazing. And when you get old, also people see the old person very cute. They become some kind of, they sort of recede back being babies in an older body. And yeah, they become innocent and so on, but when they die, it's not really beautiful because you're attached to them. So all sorrow comes from parting from beautiful things. But if you didn't have attachment to a beautiful person, then there's a lot of joy that you had such a good time to have them in your life, and then you try to live their good example or whatever. Then you don't suffer the loss of lasting beauty, isn't it? Like the Buddha's passing away is not passing away. It's called Mahaba. Buddha's passing away didn't make people to miss him. I'm sure some did at the time, but we never don't think Buddha passed away. It's just like he's like an immortal being. So such things doesn't cause sorrow. The same goes with the spiritual masters. When you truly know what their beauty is, and there's not the form that you attach to, then you don't feel sorrow, really. Not the same kind, but maybe sometimes you might feel a little tearful, but really not a sorrowful tear. It's a joyous sorrow, joyous tear. Contents in the tear is different, I'm sure. Yeah, but Shivam Jumana, Nindunza Shimamboda, Urintus, Nyangenda, Udanavarga, Donganju. Yeah, some people are not just have sorrow when they parted from the loved one, but they're just not the same person anymore. Something's really missing, because. Of course, the person's special, but they attach to it, and then they don't even enjoy anything. They don't have the ability to be normal because they're so maimed, so aged. Yeah, some people die very soon after that one they love dies. Maybe they're also relatively similar age, and karmically they probably timed it. Timed it not only to meet, but also die one after another. I have one uncle and aunt, they were really, the aunt died 3 days after the uncle died. Because there's not much worth hanging on. Yeah, so where beauty and ugliness is absent, there is no knot. There no knot is to be found. No knot meaning no bondages, no clinging, and no attachment. Since beauty itself is defilement, do not regard it as beautiful. Because our defilements makes the thing fonder than more beautiful than actually it is, So our attachment and our bias to it, our Australian, Miss Australia looks most beautiful than anybody else. Because we're attached to Australia. It's like that. Whatever the case might be, your team or whatever, because of that, so it looks like that. So how that's all defilements that makes it, and so therefore do not regard them as truly existing, because to do that will be fooling yourself, and therefore do not chase after what is usually cause of most people's failure, because of chasing those illusory things that you think beautiful. Kana do dan do me telan do ba human be de do ni do jela do ba jeba mijawos. He who has forsaken his goals for beauty does not chase after pleasure. So he who has no aims and objectives for beautiful things, they do not chase after to find pleasure or happiness from that, because even if they do have little pleasure or little, but that would soon be replaced by the opposite, if they are clinging that to be what it appears. He does what brings unhappiness, because then he's creating his own happiness. The object is just an ingredient for unhappiness. So beauty, when beauty becomes called ingredients of unhappiness, when one's attachment to it destroys it, even those acts that brings pleasure. Yeah. So he who does bring unhappiness, even those acts that very much bring temporary pleasure, and he thinks the temporary pleasure from the beauty is going to make him pleased and soothed. But very few people have found those pleasure or object within their grip. As soon as they discover a thing they thought was the thing, it slips away, or it's already starting to hurt you. Already starting to feel suspicion or fear or doubt and possessiveness and control. See how the very object that one clings and hold on to creates these very problems. These very problems. Those who are attracted to pleasure with beautiful form do wrong deeds and completely fail. Yeah, it wouldn't stop them from doing wrong. Then they side them. Then they try to protect it. Then they try to get possessive and control. And because of that, then it completely makes them to do wrong deeds that they wouldn't do. And then, then they will, previously they may not do certain things, then now they're starting to do wrong deeds, and then slowly deteriorate, and will completely fail, and lose one's Dharma, and teaching and practice of it. They will fall in the states of humans and gods, and go under the sway of old age. So even if they were able to be born as a higher rebirth like humans and gods, they still will fall into the incessant suffering of old age, sickness, and death, and their life itself in human form, but not interested in Dharma, because their mind to seek worldly pleasure, samsara, completely takes over. So their practice becomes very, very superficial, very, very artificial, very, very like a tokenism, because the whole effort and energy goes into controlling and ensuring those temporary pleasures, and without knowing how much one will suffer when one loses them, when one doesn't have them. One is actually more aged and more depleted of one's usefulness. By that, one is not consistently able to do many good deeds because of that, but doesn't see it. The person is not himself. He's completely lost to such false promises or what appears to be satisfactory. Those who are heedful, who both day and night restrain from beautiful forms, will give up the demonic food that's hard to let go and remove the root of the wrongs. So they realize that very pleasant feeling, the pleasant taste or pleasant, experiences that one has, one will know that to indulge in these things is not heedful. And one is therefore losing time and energy and discipline to do the practice. So one is actually, so taken up by the demonic food, and then one can't let go. One become addicted to them, as if they're going to take care of your well-being later. And And so it will completely destabilize one's form and in the journey of the practice Dharma. Viewing that which is not good as good, ugliness as beautiful, and treating misery as pleasure, such heedless people are ruined by their own attachment. So when people talk about their life being ruined by somebody, they don't realize that their desire, their attachment, and craving for it is making them unable to accept the impermanence of what they thought was there. So then they think it's the fault of the whatever the thing they lost, and then they completely lose the whole sensibility, and then create incessant sufferings to oneself, others without any measure. Dula te de tendane dejor namla mijukjin. Dani mede jondenda dejor tende namlaman. Sudu de Dhammapada Lama Choedak Rinpoche Dikbache Yonyam Gadan Chive Ondu. Kaji Nindan Tsenam Payo Sudo Ponjebe Tene Panga Duseta Dikbe Zawang Tune Chung. Viewing that which is not, if one has concern for oneself and does wrong, one does not attain an easy happiness. So you should not pursue after beauty. So meaning that that because if one really has concern for oneself, and what really is concern for oneself is ignored, because what one wants from beautiful object is only a skin deep level pleasure. Well, because one is going after that what really is concerned about oneself is much deeper than the temporary pleasure, then that is totally ignored, and so one is instead pursuing the very thing that has no contentment, no satisfaction, but it's always giving the false hope as it will, while ignoring the very concern the higher concern for oneself is completely ignored. Just as the secluded towns are circled with stable dikes, if one is fond of oneself, should guard oneself from with proper protection. So it's talking about towns that are not really well protected in some village area. They usually put a strong fence from outside, enemies or attacks or robbers. Likewise, when one is a little bit weak in one sense guarding, talking about one's senses, and so one should guard those sense doors, because those sense doors sees not so beautiful things as beautiful things, and not lasting things as lasting, not strong as strong, not agreeable as agreeable, not desirable as a desirable, and because they're very loose, and they're really desperate. So one need to build those fences. So build those fences that one is not distracted by objects, as it will fulfill some amazing wishes. They don't. They are very temporary. They're very illusory, and therefore one should guard. If we talk of protection, you should guard from having weak such a sense door, weak sense doors. If one is fond of oneself, meaning if you really love for your well-being, if one who is intelligent should keep a watch 3 times and keep oneself properly in secret. So this is talking about your overall well-being. If you really care for yourself, if you really are looking after yourself and you are intelligent to do that, then you should really be watchful. Whatever you're trying to do 3 times before you decide. Be watched 3 times, and try to keep yourself safe and secret from being known or met by with such objects that actually promises, that actually appears to be fulfilling your needs. Maybe your sense doors like fences are not so stable, not so strong, and they're very, very volatile. They're very, very vulnerable, and so therefore very needy. Then, of course, if you don't check carefully, the first feeling of neediness will make oneself fall prey to something, and as a result of that, then whatever that destroys your standing or your money or your job or your possession, all will be quickly destroyed, because one doesn't know how to properly guard and protect oneself. Legmen legbe sultane dumin dupe tsuji dan dunga debe tsuji pame namne ngondoju kade dala gajena nyebre chebe devata dela konar metobe dinen digla shugmechas. So just as the secluded towns, these are talking about small towns, villages in frontiers, protect themselves inside and out, because they are very vulnerable to the wild beasts or robbers, because a small town and not protected, they have to really go and guard themselves. One should guard this precious life without letting it go astray. So therefore, here is talking about is one should guard oneself from things that are beautiful. People went for a beautiful show and never returned, and killed in the stampede or pile up or whatever. So if you don't go out to too many places, beautiful things, you will be safe in your home. But if you go and hunt, search for a lot of such things, enjoyment, pleasure, or whatever, then you are not guarding your really fragile and precious life. It's so easily could be snapped, and so therefore you never know where the trouble or problem and obstacle is there. So therefore one should guard from going to such enticing activities called fun or thrill or what I call funny outing or whatever. If it's safe and it's done these days, of course there's a lot of care and protection and concerned community organizations, public safety, and safety of this, safety of that, and no matter what. But the whole activity they will all watch is dangerous. They all want to watch this burning car. And they think they're all safe or something. They're watching this crazy 30 people carrying this car, burning the tire. They think it's beautiful. They think it's fun. They think it's bringing tourist money or whatever. Yes. We have said so many things. They thought, when they did the implosion of Canberra Hospital, they thought it would be a beautiful spectator to people to come and watch. That sort of thing we're talking about. What they thought was a beautiful, modern day implosion activities or demolition activities. We're talking about, we're so vulnerable, so fragile. We could meet with any trouble. So one should guard his precious life. We built houses, we put fences, we put net, and we put all sorts of things, but we go out and expose ourselves for all kinds of danger. And so, of course, that's the name. But here is the Buddha is talking more about the sense outings, sense outings, not outings, outings of the senses. Senses themselves go out and seek something without guarding the very mind and the everyday activities. They will definitely make themselves ruined by that. Besides taking rebirth in hell, one regrets when human life is squandered. Even after examining in all direction in my mind, one finds no one whosoever more beautiful than myself. Since others too see their own beauty, liking themselves cause no harm to others. So it's talking about if we withdraw from seeking beautiful things outwardly, one then of course wonders and rejoices oneself, and so of course no one sees our beauty, for instance, and if you rejoice, you are liking to yourself, and try to cherish that, and it does harm to nobody. If you really think someone is beautiful, why about yourself? And look after it. Look after it, and then of course you don't have to go and find that. Find somebody. Find somebody that you haven't got your head in their head. They have their own head. We can at least mind our head, hopefully. They say mind your head. Doesn't mean that actually. Mind what's in their head. Head itself might hit you on a few times, but that's not a real problem. It's what in the head you have to mind. Mind the head. Liking themselves cause no harm to others. And those practitioners who guard their senses, and even if their body were emaciated and a bit neglected because not feeling well or whatever, but they actually are guarding the real beauty of the Buddha nature. That their really life is blessed with those qualities. Hence, they actually are not wasting in searching, seeking something, chasing something outside. But when they themselves has the full potential good that it can do, since everyone holds life most dear and fear its loss, knowing how one's own downfalls affects, one should not strike or kill oneself. So what it's saying is, life is so precious, but if one goes in seeking things, what are objects that are beautiful out there, then actually one is doing just that. One is actually killing oneself. There are lots of people whose life was completely lost in search and chasing after beauty and enjoyment and pleasure, and they kill themselves. They wouldn't even know how much is how much as a drug or whatever, and they just drowned, suffocated, and killed themselves. Very extreme lifestyle we're talking about. Kade dala gachena lekbrichipi devata dela kona tobjube dine digla shugmicha. Pena gombe trongyebda tembe hobji korwata kade dala gachena dine sungwe lekpar sung. Kade dala gachena tunsum kayarung wala kebe meze chawai dine bawe lekpar ba. Pena gombe trongyebda Chinan sungwa chebada danjo chuneme soba tadardana sungwarja. Semje nyawa genaya danjo tawen gyubrang. Chonam kundu semji yonda ya dale chidu gayang mandongwa tedar soso shenlan randube deje dage shenla nemeja. Tamje lane sonadu tamje chebe jigbana rangi nyembe bagil degbar meja semeja. So it's talking about how one should not ruin one's life while honoring oneself. One should not kill oneself in search of those. The man who is long exiled returns without mishap from afar. The relatives and friends come and offer praise and say how wonderful. Likewise, when a person who created merit goes from here to the world beyond, reaching there all his merits, like relatives come to greet and offer praise. So it's talking about if you lose a relative in this life who's been exiled maybe for whatever reasons, but finally he rescues from all the difficulties and then returns safely home, all will be very happy to see him return in one piece. He says, if likewise, no matter how hard this present life have to go through, in creating good and doing good, creating merit is like exiled. Creating merit is like exiling yourself because you're exiled from enjoyment and dancing and partying, all of that, so to speak. It goes from here to the world beyond. But when one who has created merit, but when he is to the next world, when he goes, reaching all of his merits, because he would have cultivated all the merits, like relatives come to greet his past merits, all his merits that he created in the past life will greet him in next life. So this is talking about the people who want to do beautiful things in this life do not get greeted. They have to enter with all the karma, and next life they will be greeted by different kinds, of the opposite. But in this life, one may do the holy work of Dharma and practice, and maybe not too much much a slave, become slave to the senses. Then maybe one has to exile the senses a little bit, and make them a little bit not being entertained or spoiled so much. But in the world hereafter, when we pass away from next, or within this very lifetime and later on, you actually realize, what wonderful great merit that you have, and all will greet you in open arms, because you are exiling of yourself in the search of spirituality in desert of samsara. You actually did use the exile for a reason, and then all the great hardships you went through will be rewarded, because all the sentient beings will merit and benefit from your thing, and you will be greeted, and therefore all the past hardships and all the exile-like difficulties, like asceticism, like simplicity, like solitary, and like no activities, no other kind of things that you get engaged in, exiling oneself this way actually has completely made oneself to grow strong and wise and meaningful and beneficial to the world, and all, even non-relatives, become your relatives. It's amazing. Because in this life you try to do this, even relatives might exile you over possessions and things, and then so in next life, of course, there's no relatives at all. Everybody comes back an enemy. Karma is like that, So that's why it's true, True, amazing, And anyone who has a great calling to the world through Dharma wise, and they probably would have done a little bit of work to exile their body or their life or whatever, and then afterwards, and then they have relatives everywhere. They have sisters and brothers and everywhere who will greet themselves. They may be otherwise really completely worthless, otherwise in a professional world. They don't even have a piece of paper to say who they are or what degree they have, or they may be completely like that, but they still have relatives everywhere. They have friends everywhere, and because one actually went to an exile for a reason. One went into the bush. One went to the caves for a reason. There are individuals like that these days. Quite a lot of prominent leaders in Buddhist world. Of course, some very prominent by the status. I don't know how much they exile, but they've definitely exiled a number of levels. But others who we can talk about Annie Tenzin Palmo, for instance. She did as a young English girl. She really has her heart like no other, interested in Dharma, and she practiced very difficult conditions, because very many teachers taught in English, and she was often treated as a whatever, as a no one, as a foreigner, as Inji and woman and so on, she tells all those stories, In spite of that, she hanging in there, and went in search of the practice, and really did what proper disciples should do, and in a completely not her home area, in a completely middle of Ladakh or somewhere among Tibetan refugees, and practice these very teachings in simplicity, in retreat. probably people don't know whether she'll make it alive or not. But nowadays, she has a formidable standing as not only as a nun, but as a really practitioner who exiled herself from her comfort of homes and company, and of course nowadays she's an icon. I'm promoting her. Why shouldn't I? I met her before she went to retreat in 1981. She just got ordained. She took Lamdra, in 1981 in Purawala. She was among the few Westerners, not many, probably the only Western nun there. And there were a couple, maybe nearly 100 Singaporeans and Malaysians. We were more attentive of them, Tibetans, because these were very, very wealthy Buddhist donors and benefactors and so on. I remember that. Anyway, so it's So those who pursue for the Dharma and do it, and the same goes with Milarepa, when he did his hard work and training and practice, he exiled himself. He was exiled by his teacher. He was treated in a way that he had to own his merit. He has to redeem his bad karma and earn a place through his practice. And nobody will recognize anybody even lived there later on doing some wonderful job. But once he finished his amazing task and training, he came out as just like a matchless practitioner and realized being, in such a desolate, far, crevices of mountain. You wouldn't go to search anything. But their amazing practitioners are developed. Why? Because they heeded to these teachings. They really weren't enchanted by the material world. He got actually disgusted with what he did, and he had true renunciation. And when of course when he's finished his retreat and become even today, so some nearly 900 years, actually a bit over 900 years, because they were celebrating 900th anniversary of the first Karmapa, because Milarepa was pre-first Karmapa. His doings, his life is as was yesterday, because he actually heeded to these teachings and practice in solitude. He exiled his body, he exiled his physical body, he exiled his food. He basically resorted to what was inedible to people. He knew what had to be done, and he didn't seek some compromises or looked for comfort and try to find a way around to make himself a little easy. He knew all the forefathers of the spiritual traditions, all the way to the Shakyamuni Buddha, how he lived and so on. So he knew that life was very precious, and it can go wasted if one does not use this. So do meritorious deeds. Yes, so do meritorious deeds for the world beyond here. The merits will be transferred for the person in the next world. So just like the relatives greeting, our good karma will greet us. Good karma will greet us, and being able to follow the Dharma assiduously, uninterruptedly. The gods praise the virtues of those beings with good conduct. No one will disparage them here, and they will attain bliss in heaven. So this is talking about those who are not attracted and imprisoned in liking the beautiful things. Abiding by the Dharma with a good discipline, having sense of shame and speaking truth, and carrying out his worldly duty will delight the other people. So this is talking about the individual who is very strict with his good discipline. He's able to feel danger and shame and embarrassment, and teaching what the truth of the Dharma teaches, and do not fail out his duty, carry the activities, and will be able to delight other people. So talking about, because one is carrying out the activities that actually benefit other sentient beings. Tamalaya sonedo tamche chepe jikbana rangi nyamle pagi de dekparameja semeja yandara cheba chukbe me ringne nyesho deone nyeshen zo lanes alala shingumbar deshi sonam chebe me jikden dene parod chimche nyeshe sonamda onen umbar gawache deven jikden parodi chedo sonam sapargi sonam jikden parodi lujenam nesu gyur nesu gyur. Attending to one's own duties will make others to be happy. In this seen life, there is praise. One will be happy in the next. So talking about the importance of be mindful with one's own duties, and if one who is sticking by his duties and fulfilling the duties will make easier for anyone, either above us or equal to us or junior, because their duties will be also made easier, particularly if they are dependent on each other, and if and others will speak kindly of you, and also will delight those who hear someone offering praise, because it doesn't stop there; it benefits through ripples, and therefore the person will be happy in the next life. The karma rolls over, so to speak, and it's just not just here, it will have a consequences thereafter, they're called aftershocks in earthquakes. Aftershocks, they have an earthquake, but there's still a consequences. It's like that. If you did a good deed, and there's still after effects. Side effects, continuing. This is after effects of Buddha's enlightenment. We are in Dharma, which we're talking about, So it will never stop there. It will not stop there. Speaking words that are permitted, meaning you are able to say words and phrases that are really, really good, harmonizer. It inspires people. It implants hope in people, joy in people, rejecting improper words. So so one who is mindful to practice Dharma by not even thinking the bad words, thinking about an object or thinking the bad words. Of course, rejecting such improper thoughts or words in the thoughts being spoken out. So one is rejecting. Will delight by the holy beings. He will delight the holy beings. Just by when you're thinking like that, you're minding like that, you're trying very hard not to say the wrong thing. And it's not as though you're dumb or something, but you rather not say much because it will add to the suffering that already there. And so it's not as you're lost for word, but you're lost for a word that is useful. And so when you're seen to be doing that, it will delight the Buddhas. He said, will delight the holy beings, and because that's what teaching says. Mind your language. They say, it's good to restrain your body conduct, physical conduct. It's better indeed to restrain the speech. And then its teaching says you should mind the speech. And when you are seen to be doing that, of course, people wouldn't be angry that you're so slow to say anything. They'd be happy you're not saying bad things. You're giving a bit of silence to everyone. Will delight holy beings, and non-holy beings will be unhappy. Only the non-holy beings will be unhappy. So hopefully there are only few. Majority will be happy. Far ones will, silent one will be happy. Noisy one will be unhappy. The others are they just heard nothing. so they're able to mind their fences. They go and put an extra nail or something. Yeah, they just guarded the fence. That's it. Yeah, so there's really there's no real problem. So the excellent from the non-excellent, so the excellent from the not excellent are separated at their death. Those not holy go to hell. The holy ones will proceed to higher realms. So it's talking about the ability to distinguish not only the temporary behavior, but also in the future benefit. So in the Tsutum Punso Ngoza Shijing Dembama, Jawa Rangi Jawa Chepala, Gyo Shenam Gawarche. He is able to tailor our deeds, not just to seek approval of others. That's the least purpose of it. Try to not upset others. That's his purpose, So if he seems to be patient and he's slow, it's good, He's doesn't mind he's slow or he's at least giving some peace to everybody. He look like he's doing for himself, but he's actually fulfilling benefit of others. In the meantime, he's crafting how to reduce the distress of the others. Yeah, so he will be remembered, praised now, and remembered by people. Remember such people, and then they give them hope. People get exposed to all the violence, all this bad language, movies, all this so devastating and harmful in development stages. These days they talk about how harmful to our children are, to there's so much things that just unnecessarily produce, show. They have no idea. If these things are exposed to young mind, they think that's the language they should speak. And they think they should do. They're all playing games with guns. All these violent related activities. Nowadays they are belatedly they're saying how harmful it is for kids at a young age to be exposed to that. These days there's a lot of small work, but not enough really, because the majority of those people who sell such dangerous products are all want to sell. There's very few shows that are actually exactly opposite. Tamnanangwe tsigma ta mirik cholen dokpala dambanamne gawaje damba mai gamichi. Dewe chotan chomimba shibu jawar gyubana damba mai nyawaro damba tori jawar gyu. Dukbet something about this is the 5th chapter on the subject of beauty. But of course, it is a lot more. It's more about attachment, really, because attachment usually are to things we think are beautiful. So it's amazing how these chapters are weaving its teachings. It talks about the danger of craving and desire, and then it talks about the heedfulness, and then it talks about the beauty and how attachment to beauty creates fear and sorrow and all the things. So we're not talking about talking about extremely chasing after things out there, but even in a fairly modest life, really maybe relatively contained way of life, there are few things that we know in our life that are beautiful, people or whatever they are, but they are all. Then we have to treat it carefully. To what extent we want to associate the beauty, ascribe the beauty to them or to us or to the nature of the relationship. Because while we are not saying we can't rejoice and relish the temporary friendship or temporary kindness from each other and so on, but it's really good to still know that the real happiness comes from non-attachment, not needing to have something or someone or that there. Because even though you might have something temporarily, but most do not last. And then when it doesn't last, we suffer a setback called sorrow, you know. And people then they think they should die before the other, or you know, and then they don't cope with it. They think they just totally lose it. They thought they had a bit of understanding, but they don't. Because of that, it just completely. Yeah, some people, as a result of losing something beautiful in life, they couldn't cope with it. Then they resort to alcohol. Then they resort to other things, other activities, as if they're going to mask their problems. But actually, they've made the problem larger to neglect the important things. So therefore, it's talking more about attachment. If one realizes the impermanence of things, which is a view, which is an amazing, great view, it shouldn't be thought as a Buddhist thought, but it should be the truth. It is the truth that everything is impermanent. When we know everything is impermanent, then we expect things to change from whatever to whatever. When it does, there's no shock or no disbelief and no attachment associated with that. And as a result of that, we don't suffer nearly the same amount. We still are human beings, but we still can choose to be a little bit hateful human beings. You know, you say, "Oh, we are all humans" or something. You know, as we can't have wiser human beings. Of course, sure, but one who understands that. Don't spend too much mourning and groaning and all these things, and as if you have nothing to live for. His whole life is completely destroyed because of that happiness. They got no other hopes and no other things to do. It just dampens one's whole morale by thinking one has lost some irreplaceable thing. It's not really, you know. It's you can completely revise your life. You can completely do something, pick up some new interests, or do something with others and with people, or with your skill, and or learn new skill. And you discover something beautiful again. You never knew you had some linguistic skill. You never knew you have some painting skills. All of a sudden. And so instead of becoming very sad and upset and fearful and doubtful oneself, because a lot of the suffering is from attachment, all from attachment. Even you wouldn't believe how much a problem attachment is from even setting us free to do good, let alone finishing to do good, because we're so attached to temporary kind of comfort and pleasure, and these things comes first. We're not talking about giving up food, clothes, medicine, shelter. These things are necessary for survival, probably the most important. Even these things are so that we do some good, not so much that we feed to feed. And because the food needs to be eaten, otherwise there will be disaster. Not like we feed so that we can actually do something useful. What is the useful we are doing? Each day we're feeding, they say. You know, there are a little bit better than competitiveness, profit making something. You know, that's not the purpose. Even that has to have a purpose. If the ends and objectives is just to feed and to own and possess, then definitely we are just mere human being. A person who has a literacy of human emotions and intelligence, Buddha is the most literate person as an enlightened one in human emotions. And nowadays, the emotion, the subject of emotions, they are trying to study based on human behaviors and so on, even in the cognitive science. But they still have no concepts of studying the mind, because it's not within the radar of any machine they can look through. They can't do. So it's only the Buddha whose enlightenment is enlightenment, because he realized the true potential and dangerous emotions that human beings are resorting to or teaching each other to practice. So much competition, so much you've got to look after yourself. All this toxic form right from the very beginning, even though they mean it very well, because that's the only level we have. But a little bit of kindness and selflessness were, featured in whatever stories, storybooks, or children's games, or little shows. All these things, of course, will help. But the adult population itself themselves has to have that, because they themselves never got taught that, and so they don't know where to begin. So now, with the amazing globalization and exchanging of things and learning from each other, of course, it could be a really good contribution by people learning how to influence the mind right from early stages, in personal level or social level or communal level or larger kind of maybe national level or so on. Of course, where there's a group of individuals who are interested and who fathom the Dharma and its wisdom and want themselves to contribute something valid and pay some attention how we can add to it. Small activities, sort of pilot activities maybe, and then slowly, I'm sure the society is quite keen to learn, as long as there is a dedicated group of people who are starting to use their imagination and really think through carefully and try to bring to light these teachings in a kind of a secular form, but really noticeable through our reading and listening. This, I'm sure, there may be people out there as well who can see how can we get small teachings of these things right in the early literatures, educational literatures, maybe in form of small, without calling them Buddhist. It needs to be called. It's okay. Buddhist doesn't. I don't think it was Buddhist, but I don't think it's the teaching of mind to be used that way. But there are lots of people who draw Buddhist ideas, but not give credit to, and that's if not that Buddhism needs credit, but it's really good to show that these are testable. These are offerings of the knowledge how to help all ages by people who have studied human psychology, behaviors, or so on. Then they definitely have some knowledge in that very, very small area they're learning, and then everybody who's learning in that area could think of something how to intersect these teachings in a skillful way. And because there are lots of people who write children's books, and if the intention is to sell more, publish more without any contents, just because someone else's name's on the thing that is famous or something, but actually when you read it, there's not much. There's another story. It hasn't got anything fleshy, So So there's a lot of potential from these knowledges. Thank you, everybody. We will conclude there tonight.